I had always been warned never to go up to the attic. Everyone in the house avoided it, even my parents. But tonight, I felt something pulling me, something daring me to see for myself. My hand trembled as I reached for the rusty old door handle. The house was silent, too silent. Every creak of the floorboards made my heart race faster. I slowly turned the handle, and the hinges groaned, screaming a warning into the night. A chill ran down my spine. I stepped inside. The attic was darker than I remembered. Shadows stretched along the slanted ceiling, twisting in impossible ways. My breath caught. My pulse thundered. Every instinct screamed to run. But I couldn't. I had to see what was inside. And that's when I felt it. Something watching me. Waiting. The attic smelled of old wood, dust, and something metallic, faint, almost like blood. I took a careful step forward. Every object seemed to shift when I blinked. The furniture, draped in white sheets, looked like pale ghosts standing in the corners. Cobwebs brushed my arms as I reached for support, tickling my skin. The floorboards creaked with every step, echoing through the attic. And then I heard it, a soft whisper. My name. Why are you here? My flashlight flickered. Shadows stretched and twisted on the walls. I told myself, it's just shadows, imagination, nothing else. But I knew it wasn't. Something or someone was there. I could feel it breathing in the air around me. My heartbeat thudded so loud, I could swear it echoed in the entire attic. My legs were frozen. My hands shook. Every instinct screamed to run, but I had to see what it was. I moved deeper, my flashlight barely illuminating the space. An old rocking chair in the corner shifted on its own. A wardrobe door slowly opened, hinges squealing. I took another step, and a cold breeze brushed my face. My breath became visible. The whispers repeated my name, softer, deliberate, chilling. I told myself to leave, but I couldn't. Something drew me further into the shadows. Each step made the dust swirl, forming shapes that weren't really there. Or maybe they were. My pulse was deafening. The air was thick, heavy, almost suffocating. I felt a presence behind me. Something dark and still watching, waiting. 15 still. My heart skipped a beat. I whispered, "No, this isn't real." But deep down, I knew it was. I moved toward the attic window to try to see outside, to ground myself. The window was small, dirty, almost impossible to see through. Moonlight spilled in, illuminating dust that danced like tiny spirits in the air. And then, I felt it. Presence directly behind me. Not moving, not breathing, but waiting. I turned slowly, my flashlight shaking in my hands. Nothing, just empty air. But the temperature dropped suddenly. I could see my breath faster, heavy and fast. The air seemed thicker, heavier, pressing against my chest. I whispered to myself, "It's just shadows. Just the house settling, nothing else." But I knew it wasn't. Something was there, watching. I took another step forward. The floor beneath me groaned loudly. A trunk lid slammed shut somewhere behind me, echoing. I froze. My flashlight flickered violently, then died, leaving me in almost complete darkness. I could hear my own breathing, shallow, quick, uneven. And then, a faint whisper, close to my ear. "Why did you come here?" I gasped. My legs felt heavy, stuck to the floorboards. I took a hesitant step back, and the shadows seemed to shift with me, stretching, twisting, moving unnaturally. My heartbeat thundered in my chest. The attic felt alive, watching me, hunting me. I whispered again, trying to calm myself. I need to leave." My voice sounded small, fragile, swallowed by the darkness. I felt cold air brush against my neck, like invisible fingers. The shadows in the corners danced, stretching toward me. The furniture seemed to lean closer, almost breathing. I could see shapes forming in the moonlight, fleeting glimpses of pale faces, eyes staring, mouths opening in silent screams. My flashlight flickered back to life, just for a moment, illuminating the slanted ceiling and the far wall. A figure, just a shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, standing perfectly still. My heart skipped a beat. I whispered, "No, this isn't real." But deep down, I knew it was. I moved toward the attic window to try to see outside, to ground myself. The window was small, dirty, almost impossible to see through. Moonlight spilled in, illuminating dust that danced like tiny spirits in the air. And then, I felt it, presence directly behind me, not moving, not breathing, but waiting. I turned slowly, my flashlight shaking in my hands. Nothing, just empty air. But the temperature dropped suddenly. I could see my breath, heavy and fast. The whispers returned, louder this time, multiple voices repeating my name. "Why are you here? You shouldn't be here. Leave now." My pulse was deafening in my ears. I backed away slowly, toward the middle of the attic, and the shadows seemed to follow, inching closer every time I blinked. I needed to leave. I forced myself to walk toward the attic door. Each step felt like walking through water, slow and heavy. Dust floated in the pale moonlight, creating shapes that seemed alive. A chair tipped over violently nearby. I jumped, but no one was there. My flashlight flickered again. The shadows on the walls stretched, elongated, moving as if they were reaching for me. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, repeating my name in a soft, haunting chorus. I whispered to myself, "I must leave. I must leave now." But even as I said it, I could feel that presence behind me, closer, almost touching. I reached the trunk again. Its lid was now open. Though I hadn't moved it, I stepped back. My flashlight shone directly on the floorboards, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw footsteps leading away from me, but no one was there. I swallowed hard, forced my legs to move, stepping toward the attic door. The shadows seemed to converge, filling the corners, the ceiling, the floor, everything. The whispers now sounded like 100 voices surrounding me. I could feel my skin crawl. I whispered again, louder this time, "I'm leaving." My voice sounded small, fragile, even to myself, but I knew it wasn't listening. It was waiting, always waiting. I finally reached the door. My hands shook violently as I touched the rusty handle. It was cold, freezing cold. I turned the knob slowly, holding my breath. The hinges groaned, echoing across the attic like a scream. I pushed the door open, but I didn't run. My feet felt glued to the floor. I looked back one last time. The shadows were gone, but the feeling, the presence remained, watching, waiting. And I knew, deep in my chest, that this wasn't over. I stayed frozen by the attic door, heart thundering in my chest. The air was heavier here, thicker, almost suffocating. Shadows moved in the corners of my eyes, stretching and twisting in ways that made no sense. I whispered, "I need to leave, please." But the attic didn't answer. The silence pressed against me like a living thing. Then I heard it, soft, deliberate footsteps behind me. Slow, methodical, following me. I spun around, flashlight trembling in my hands. Nothing, just darkness. But I could feel it, close, watching, waiting. I moved toward the middle of the attic, my breath ragged, trying to calm my racing heart. That's when I saw it. A mirror leaned against the wall, old and dusty. I shone my flashlight on it. My reflection stared back at me, but something was wrong. It wasn't just me. Behind my reflection, a figure, dark, pale, standing still. Its eyes were empty, hollow, and it smiled. My breath caught. I whispered, "No, it can't be real." But it was. The figure didn't move. It just watched me, and the shadows behind it shifted, growing, moving toward me. I stumbled back, knocking over a chair. The sound echoed through the attic. The figure remained still, its gaze locked on me. Then, faint whispers returned, not just one voice, but many, all repeating my name. "Why are you here? You shouldn't be here. Leave now." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My legs trembled violently. I backed into the far corner, my flashlight shaking uncontrollably. The shadows seemed to crawl along the floorboards, stretching toward me, reaching for my feet, my hands, my body. I whispered, "Please, I need to leave." The temperature dropped suddenly. My breath became visible, heavy, and fast. I could feel something brush against my shoulder. Soft, cold, deliberate. I turned, nothing. But the feeling remained. Watching, waiting. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. I could hear the attic creak and groan around me, but nothing else. Then, from the shadows, I saw movement. Small at first, like a flicker, then larger. Shapes shifted, forming outlines of faces. Pale, twisted, staring directly at me. I froze in terror. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices, circling me, surrounding me, echoing off the walls. I backed away slowly toward the door, my flashlight flickering violently. A trunk lid slammed open behind me. Dust floated in the moonlight, forming shapes. Hands, faces, eyes. I stumbled, nearly falling. My heart raced so fast it felt like it would burst. I forced myself to move, step by step, toward the door. Every movement felt heavier, as if something was holding me back. The shadows followed, crawling along the floorboards, stretching toward the ceiling, filling every corner. The whispers now screamed, overlapping. "Why are you here? Leave now." I screamed in my mind, begging, pleading, willing myself to move faster. Finally, I reached the attic door again. My hands shook violently as I touched the rusty handle. The shadows seemed to hesitate for a moment, then surged forward, stretching, twisting, pressing in on me. I turned the knob, cold metal against my palm. The hinges groaned like a tortured scream. I pushed the door open, and for the first time, moonlight spilled in, illuminating the room beyond. I ran, stumbling down the stairs, never looking back. But even as I reached the main floor, I could feel it, watching, waiting, and I knew it wasn't done with me. Not yet. I tumbled down the attic stairs, heart hammering in my chest. My legs were shaking, my arms weak, but I forced myself to keep moving. Every creak of the floorboards behind me sounded like footsteps, following, closing in. The air felt colder, heavier, as if the house itself was alive and breathing. I reached the main floor and turned on the lights. Finally, some warmth, some comfort. But even as the light spread across the room, a shadow lingered in the corner of my vision. I froze. My pulse quickened. The whisper returned, soft, deliberate. My name. "You shouldn't have come." I backed away slowly, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. But every instinct screamed otherwise. The air grew colder. My breath came in ragged gasps. I looked around. The shadows seemed to twist, moving unnaturally, stretching just beyond the edges of the light. I whispered to myself, "It's over. It has to be over." But deep down, I knew it wasn't. That presence was still there, watching, waiting. I tried to leave the house, running to the front door. My hands shook as I gripped the handle, but when I looked outside, the moonlight wasn't right. The street was empty, eerily silent, yet I could feel eyes on me. Shadows flickered along the walls outside, dancing, twisting in ways that shouldn't be possible. I slammed the door shut, locked it, leaned against it, gasping for air. I told myself, it's gone. It's gone now. But the whispers continued, faint, almost a sigh. I'll be waiting, always waiting. Days passed, but the memory never left me. At night, I could hear the faint creaking of floorboards above. Even though the attic door was locked, whispers drifted through the house, soft, repeating my name. And sometimes, just sometimes, I see a shadow in the corner of my eye, pale and still, staring at me. I never go near the attic again. I warn anyone who dares to enter, never go up there, because whatever waits in the attic doesn't let go. And I know, deep down, it never will.